Hello, Michel.
Oh, hi.
The last time a new book of yours came out, you were pretty upset.
You mean Confessions of the Flesh? Uh, yes, I was angry about that because it really wasn't ready for print. I had the distinct feeling that I was being used as a stupid publishing puppet.
With your new book on the Philosophical Discourse, it's different?
Maybe.
And why?
This book was somehow forgotten. Not even Daniel Defer knew anything about it, although he had the manuscript all along. I think he just thought it was a lecture I had given in Tunis in the late 1960s.
But it's not. It's really a book that's almost finished. What is it about?
Well, I wrote the Philosophical Discourse in the summer of 1966, shortly after The Order of Things came out, or in other words, a few years before I published The Archaeology of Knowledge. It is, as the title says, about the question of discourse. An obscure subject, I know. I've never defined exactly what I actually mean by discourse. But in The Order of Things, I at least pointed to the connection between discourse and reason.
I only remember it vaguely.
Well, in the classical age, discourse is a kind of ontology for a long time, before it then becomes epistemology and an analysis of ideas on the one hand, and science on the other hand.
Philosophy is then epistemology and the analysis of ideas?
Exactly. It is above all the kind of discourse that is associated with the name of Descartes.
You mean that Descartes, with his famous I think, therefore I am, introduced something like a new style into philosophy?
This was more than a new style. I quote from the book Philosophy since Descartes is a unique and isolable cultural configuration. It is neither an object domain nor a particular language. It is a way of speaking, but only if one understands by it not the choice of a style, but a way of relating discourse and the speaking subject to each other.
So, a certain form of literature?
Well, precisely not. Descartes constituted a specific relationship between discourse and subject. And it is this relationship from which all the topics he deals with derive.
But literature does play a role in this, doesn't it?
Sure, but not because philosophy is simply fiction, but because modern literature, together with modern science, contributed to the creation of the very conditions that Descartes can then use for his refoundation of philosophy.
Don Quixote, that is Cervantes on the one hand, and Galileo on the other.
Exactly. Modern literature and modern science contribute to what, at least since Nietzsche, has been called the death of God. Cervantes, as well as Galileo, push the world of the religious into the background so that a new kind of subject can appear. a subject plagued by doubts and uncertainties, even close to madness, but which no longer turns to the past, to tradition, in order to understand and locate itself, but to the present and the future.
I see. That's a new kind of history of philosophy, which, however, could be compared to what Habermas has written about the philosophical discourse of modernity. Anyway, would you say that the philosophical discourse has basically remained the same since Descartes?
No, that's a good question. At least one can say that since Nietzsche, thinking about the genealogy of modern philosophy has increased significantly.
You also tie in with that.
Sure, Nietzsche was actually a philologist, which is why he was also interested in the problem of language. In the heyday of structuralism in the 1960s, this was also of obvious interest to me.
But the most important question for me is something different, namely, is your interest in discourse in itself a philosophical interest?
Certainly not in the sense in which Descartes understood philosophy, but perhaps in the sense of Nietzsche as a kind of diagnostics of the present. To quote once more from my new book, ever since Descartes, philosophy has always been asked by non-philosophy to say what is happening, what is manifest in the present, and what is hidden in it. What darkness or evil, what fall into sin or oblivion separates us from what exists, and by what language it is finally rendered to us.
So, not a contribution to a particular philosophy, but as a critical reflection on what philosophy could be today.
Or what it should be today, an analysis of discourses that determine what we can say.
Or an analysis of discourses that determine what we can play as puppets?
Of course.
Of course.